Okay, so I'm getting a lot of questions about how I'm making these masks, and I'm getting a lot of requests from people who need them. So I just wanted to answer all those questions here in one spot so that I can get back to sewing. So the mask that I'm making is a fitted mask, and I'm doing the elastic all the way around. This is one piece of elastic, and it loops through the sides, up around the back of the head. So the reason why I'm doing it like this is there's been complaints that the elastic that goes behind the ears is putting too much stress on the ears. So that's one of the things that we're doing. The other thing is I'm putting a wire in at the nose. Now this helps shape the mask and keep it closer to their faces. This is how regular surgical masks are made. Well, as close as we can get. But they do have a wire that shapes around the nose area. The other thing that we're doing is putting a filter pocket in. This has also been requested by medical personnel. So this pocket right here, they can put whatever kind of filter media they have at the hospital, or for you at home. I know people are cutting apart HEPA filtration systems and Merck 13 filters. Now, I don't know. I can't say. I'm not a medical professional. I don't know what works the best. I can just tell you what people are doing and what's being requested from me. So what's being requested from me is this metal at the nose and the pocket. And the ties in the back, it's best if they are elastic like this. And I've just tied a loose knot so that they're adjustable. But this is a 1/4-inch elastic. I happen to have more of this right now, so this is what I'm using at the moment. But I also, you can use, this is a 1/16 inch beading cord. This would work great. Whatever you've got is what you should use. We're doing the best we can with the supplies that we've got, okay? And this is a 1/8 inch elastic, a flat elastic. Any of these are going to be great. And if you don't have elastic, you can always put ties through that. So I've also seen people use headbands, like elastic headbands. We're going to get creative here. We're going to make this work. So that's the materials. Oh, for this wire in the nose, what I am using is, this is a plastic covered garden twist tie, and it just bends kind of the same as what a sandwich bag twist tie would do. I'm cutting it longer. I'm cutting it, let's see, about 6 inches long. And I'm also folding the ends under so they don't poke through the fabric. So this is what I think is the best so far of what I've found. But if you have craft wire or floral wire or anything that you can insert in here to help mold the nose, use what you've got, all right? So the next thing we're going to talk about is fabric. There's two kinds of fabrics that have been requested. One is a tightly woven quilting cotton, like this. The other one is a cotton flannel. So some people love the cotton flannel and think that it filters better. Other people are saying that it's harder to breathe through and it's hot. So this is a preference thing. So far there's no hard data on this. We're just I'm giving people what they're asking for, and so far it has been mostly the quilting cotton. So when you're looking at your quilting cotton, this isn't going to be perfect. When you're looking at your quilting cotton and you want to know if it's going to work really well, if you have some choices, hold it up to the light and see which one is blocking the light out more. This means that it's more tightly woven. I had some I held up and I could just see everything that was behind it. It was like looking through a screen. So I put those to the side and I'm not using those at this point. I'm using the ones that are more tightly woven and harder to see through. Darker ones will also be harder to see through just because they're darker, but I do believe that when you look through, you can still tell the difference between a good one and a not so great one. But if it's what you got, it's better than what you don't have. So what I say that, okay, putting your fabric right side together saves you a step later on when you're cutting. So normally I would only do 2 layers when I cut. In this situation, I'm actually stacking and I'm doing 4 layers at a time. These masks are not so delicate, so detailed that you can't cut 4 layers. If you're not comfortable with that, go ahead and do 2. But I'm pretty comfortable with 4. The other thing is, don't worry about the grain line. Like, I marked the grain line on the pattern, but the grain line doesn't matter in this situation. What matters is getting the most that you can out of the fabric that you've got. So I ended up with bigger pieces. My patterns were going all which way, and I was just figuring out where they were going to fit and flipping them until I was like, oh, hey, look, it goes right there. All right, so you just do the best you can. Okay, so normally pattern weights, pins, things like that. In this situation, we're going as fast as we can and still getting a quality end result, all right? So you're just going to cut right around this pattern. I have included seam allowances in my version. So we're going to pretend that I just cut that whole thing out, as they do in TV Magic. All right, and what you're going to end up with is they will be stacked, right sides together like this. This is two outside pieces put together, okay? As you can see, I have stacks that I've done. In this tutorial, I'm going to go through it once, and then I'm going to do another one and show you what to do if you're trying to turn out a bunch of these all in a row, okay? So yeah, I have a stack where I keep them a little staggered, makes them faster to grab, and we'll get to the next step. So now I'm taking my main fabric. This is the front nose part, the high part. We're going to flip this, put it under the machine. This is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. We start at the top. I am using a 2.5 stitch length. This is a nice tight stitch length. All right, and it's a 1/4 inch seam allowance. This for me is almost just the edge of my presser foot, nice and easy. Don't forget to back stitch when you start and when you end. Pull that out from underneath. Clip off from both sides. I have not found any need to clip this seam before we top stitch it. So the next thing is push your seam to one side, either side, doesn't matter. I would do the same size both times because then it causes it to lay flatter later when you sandwich them on top of each other, but honestly, it doesn't matter that much. So push it to a side, stick it underneath your machine, and we're just going to top stitch. So I'm just using the edge of my foot as a guide to be about a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. But as long as you're anywhere in this 1/4 inch seam allowance, you're fine. I like to keep it pretty small because then it doesn't wrinkle as much. So once again, back stitch. I'm using pink and purple. I have one on the top and one on the bottom. I feel like it makes it a little more fun and colorful. And I will be using both pink and purple fabrics in this, and so I think it's nice that it matches both layers. The less time you spend switching your threads, the better. I just did a whole batch of blacks and grays and everything else, and I just used gray for that whole batch. So you see now this front lays nice and flat. And so what that does is instead of just having this open seam right here that could flip backwards and you know, bother them, push in their nose. You know what I'm trying to say. Then it's nice and flat and off to the side and sealed up just a little bit better as well. So now we're going to do the exact same thing with the lining fabric, top to bottom. We'll get this done real quick. It is the same thing that we just did. 1/4 inch seam allowance, 2.5 stitch length. You could go smaller and do a 2.5 seems to be good for me. And back stitch. And then we're also going to top stitch this one. I'll clip those threads later. I'm trying not to make this take a painfully long time. This is going to be a little bit rough. There we go. Now we've got the pink thread on the nice pink fun fabric. I'm hoping I've got medical people requesting these, and I'm hoping that the ones that I send out that are all fun and bright and happy put a smile on someone's face. So there we go. All right, so now we have the lining and the outer fabric. We're going to sandwich those on top of each other. We're going to match up these seams right here. You can stick a little pin in there if you like. Let's see, my pins are, thank you, honey. Got my husband assisting today. It is our anniversary, and usually we get married every year on our anniversary, but this year he is helping me with this. So I just realized I missed a step. What we're going to do first is we're going to take the lining and we're going to flip it under 1/4 inch. Now when I do a bunch of these, I actually just take them all over the ironing board, flip them all in 1/4 inch, iron them really quick. For this, I'm just going to finger press that like that. That is about 1/4 inch. And then we're going to top stitch this down. And then the other side, 1/4 inch. The reason why we're top stitching these underneath is because this is where that filter pocket's going to be, and filters are going to go in and out of there. So having this top stitched down keeps your edge from coming out and fraying. All right. Now you can top stitch the edges of the main fabric down as well, but you don't need to, because after we make this pocket, we're going to top stitch it at that point, so we don't need to do that twice. So there we go. Get those threads off. All right, now sandwich these together. Stick a pin in it. Now, since those are both pressed to the same side, when you flip them, they're pressed to opposite sides, which makes this lie nice and flat. Stick a pin in that, come to the bottom, do the same there. Pin in the other direction. Okay. Sorry, I pinned the wrong side. Pin on your lining side. Learn from my mistakes. Pin on your lining side, and that way when you go to sew, your pins are on the correct side. All right, so this is pinned there. Smooth it out to the end. You can pin more than one spot if you feel you need to. I'm gonna back stitch right here. We're just going to the edge of that folded lining, and then 1/4 inch. We're going up and around the nose area, keeping that 1/4 inch nice and smooth. Make sure you're lined up with your fabric. One side's not overlapping more than the other or underneath too far. There we go. We hit the edge and we're good. Clip that off. Do the bottom really quick. Just flip that around. We're doing exactly the same thing. Start right there on the folded edge where that filter will go in. Back stitch. 1/4 inch. Pull that pin. There we go. And now you're at your edge. Okay. Usually I'm very careful about trimming all of these threads nicely. I do not want them interfering with anything that someone's trying to do while wearing this mask. I need to be inhaling threads. All right, so now we're going to take this, we're going to flip it right side out. And now it will probably make most people a lot more comfortable to do this part over by the iron. And, you know, I was cutting a bunch and sewing a bunch and ironing a bunch like all at once. So I was taking over the iron. I had 20 at a time. So now when I do this one, I have clipped this corner, but that doesn't seem to need it. And any step that we can cut out and get these done as quickly as possible, the better. So see, that's still laying nice and flat. That's not a problem at all. So you can either do it like this, throw a couple pins in it, or take it over the iron and just iron all your edges. So I usually don't do either one. This is called finger pressing. Take the edge of your nail and you go like this. They taught me this in fashion design school. What a funny thing, I thought. Anyway, so you've rolled the edge and then you finger press that and see it stays nice. So we're going to start at this edge, not the edge of the outer lining, but just there we go, just the edge of that inner lining, not the outer fabric. Okay, so a nice back stitch. What I'm doing is I'm top stitching this. So I'm just using the inside of this foot as a guide. Everybody's presser foot's going to be a little bit different and stuff. So just go ahead and find a place to eyeball it. This is about a 1/16 of an inch, and this is the same rules as what I said with that center front nose. You just need to stay inside of the seam allowance because you're just trying to get this to lay flat. And actually at the top, the closer you can get to that edge, the better, because we are going to insert a wire in there. And you don't want this seam to be so far away from the edge that it keeps the wire away from the edge. All right, then we're gonna just flip this and do the bottom. The bottom we don't have to worry about being quite so close to the edge because there's no wire going in the bottom. These are nice straight lines except right in that middle. So I kind of get it straightened out and then go to the middle. And then I get it straightened out again and go to the other edge. Like I said, over by the iron is possibly faster as you just iron everything, and then everything lays nice and flat and it's not all fiddly. Let's make sure I get both those threads. All right, and so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and make a pocket for your wire. Now, what I did with this wire is I cut it, see where this goes down right about here. So on your pattern, it's right about here. So the wire, I made it go to there. So on here, it's right when the corner turns. I made it about that long, and then I turned over the edges. I think it probably doesn't need to be quite this long, but it could be a little bit longer. Either way, it works. So I have two machines, and on my other machine, I actually put I have a zipper foot on it to help me get nice and close. We're going to give this a shot on this machine so we don't have to move around. So what I'm doing is I'm putting that wire in there, and it is being very fiddly. And I'm pushing it up to where I know that both sides are on each side of this nose. And now I'm going to pin it, and that's going to keep the wire from migrating away from the edge of the nose. Now my wire wants to, it was on a coil, so it wants to curve. I didn't put that curve in it on purpose. So I'm holding it like this. I hold it up and down to try to work with that curve. All right. So all we're trying to do is get this up against the edge, hold it tight with the pin, I'm making sure it doesn't go out that direction with the pin as well. And we're just trying to get it centered in there. Now, if you would like to be nice and neat and mark your little ends on here. When you decide how long everything's going to be, you go right ahead and do that. I would normally work much more like that, but now I'm just getting that wire in there as quick as I can. And I look at it and go, is that about even? It is about even. So that wire is stuck in there, and it does not, I won't let it out here. I'm keeping it right up in here, okay? So now, I'm glad this thread is pink for this, because you're going to be able to see what I'm doing better. I'm going to pull this first starter pin that tells me where to start. Make sure you do not sew through your wire. You can break a needle, and you just don't want to do that. All right, so I'm going back and forth a couple of times right here. I did fold the edges of my wire underneath so that it's not just a pokey end. But nonetheless, you don't want that wire coming through and out onto, you know, either into somebody's face or out through the fabric on the other side. So I do a back and forth this way too. This creates a little bit of a pocket that is reinforced so that wire doesn't go anywhere. Now I can feel this with my fingers. I'm going to hang on to this since I pulled that pin, okay? I'm using about a little more than 1/4 inch for this pocket. The side of my presser foot is on my top stitch. But all you need is a nice, neat little pocket that keeps it from moving around too much. And let me tell you, the first couple times that you do this, this wire is going to drive you nuts. It's going to go all over the place. Maybe your wire will be better and it won't. But my wire wanted to just be squirrely as could be. So now I'm getting a little bit more used to it. The presser foot on my other machine was actually really nice because the foot stayed on the outside of the wire. The wire was here and the foot was butted up against it for like when you're doing a zipper. So now we're going to finish this off. Make sure that the end of your wire is in that pocket. It is okay. I have a little bit, about 1/4 inch, like here's the wire. I'm a little bit past the wire with this pocket. That I think is actually a little bit better, so then there's no pressure from that wire on the edge. All right, so cut all your threads neat and tidy. Now we're going to flip it mean side down, lining side up. I did on my other ones actually. On my other ones, when I did this top stitch, I did all the way to the end. But this works just fine too. So go ahead, and this is going to be a 1/4 inch turn underneath. All right. So like I said, it would be better if this was all the way to the edge. I'm sorry about that, folks. So we're going to put this underneath like that. And then I have pre-cut elastics, and these are about, I did 42, I believe, for the women's. I'm going to have to stick a note on that in the comments. But so I have this length of elastic. I do the knot where it's at the bottom, so it's not up on top of the head. And then this is a 1/4 inch. We're going to fold this over like this. Actually, I feel like that's a little more of a 1/4 inch. Okay. I adjusted the pattern to give you a little bit bigger of a pocket than what I've got going on now, because I felt like the pocket being this small was too fiddly, and we're trying to get these done quick. So what you're going to do is you have your it's folded under there. You put your elastic down, and then you fold this back over, making a pocket, okay? So like I said, you could have top stitched the facing fabric as well, but that is actually what we're going to do right now. Now, making very careful that you do not sew through the elastic, okay? We don't want to sew through the elastic. When you want the elastic all the way out here on the edge, and we're going to sew on the inside of it, and we're going to top stitch just the outer fabric, not the lining. That's what keeps that pocket open, okay? So there we go. We're top stitching that. We're not going through the elastic. Back stitching nicely. Now you see this has created a nice pocket. This is not so nicely, but top stitched down. and your elastic can still slide freely. So once we do that on the other side, I will go ahead and show you. So we just flip this over in this direction. So now you see the knots on the bottom. There's a loop on the top. We're gonna do the exact same thing here. We're gonna do a little fold. Like I said, having all these pieces ironed and doing it all at once does make it go a little more smoothly. So there we go. And over, not so pretty. That's all right. Let's get through the end of this. I'm sure your masks will be prettier than mine. And if they're not, they will still be quite appreciated. Of course, being on camera makes everything not go quite so smoothly. All right, there we go. And we top stitch this down. And there's a thread attached, so it's making it fold. I hope you can still see. And we back stitch at the beginning. Then you're gonna look at it, you're gonna check everything and clip all your threads, and you are done. So see, it's got this pocket here. There's your wire in there. It makes it nice and moldable around the nose. You've got your elastic in it, and this can, you see this gathers up, so they can pull on it and make it fit them however they need to. And there's a knot here, which they can tie a little tighter, maybe move it up, move it down, whatever. I do my elastic nice and long so that it's adjustable. That way if somebody's got like beautiful big fluffy hair or something, that they get this elastic around their hair. All right, so there you go. That's it. Pocket mask. You should be very, very proud of yourself for helping with this. I hope you all have a beautiful day.